thank each one of you for choosing together for this difficult funeral service. I say difficult because, as you likely already know, that Bucky took his own life. I invite you to pray with me or just listen in on my prayer. God, it seems like days like today, especially days like today, where we are mourning the loss of our friend Bucky, who took his own life, on these days we wonder if there is a God. And if you do indeed exist, are you really all that good? Why didn't you intervene? Why didn't you do something? I believe that you exist, and in spite of days like today, I believe that you are good. So I ask that you would please, please show us something of your goodness. Amen. We gather today to celebrate the life of Bucky and to mourn his death. Bucky is survived by his mother and many siblings that Bucky was not acquainted with. Bucky's father preceded him in death when Bucky was just a baby. Centuries ago, a wise man said, "It is better to go to the house of mourning than to go to the house of feasting." Today, I am sure we could think of places where we all could go, where we might be more comfortable, and yet we are here. Bucky was a very young man. Next week, he would have been 20 years old. It is somehow better to be here today for this reason than to be any other place. There are a few things you should know about Bucky as we gather together today. I first met Bucky a few months ago when my son Paul invited him to spend the night in our home. Bucky had just been kicked out of his home by his mother and had nowhere to stay. He spent the last few months couch surfing between our home and two other homes. When I first met him, I asked if Bucky was his given name. He said when he first got his permanent teeth, they were disproportionate to his face. All the kids teased him, and he got the nickname Bucky. His given name is Edward Glant Jr., but he liked Bucky, and we all knew him as Bucky. Bucky was a very sweet young man. He possessed good manners. Bucky was very shy, as most of you know. He didn't talk too much. One thing Bucky was not shy about was giving hugs. Bucky was an excellent hugger. His hugs were an encouragement to many, including myself. Second, you should know that Bucky suffered with depression. It's important to know that suicidal thoughts and depression go hand in hand. Lest you think this is a rare occurrence, according to the most recent data that I could find, in 2007 in this country, more than 184,000 people took their own lives successfully. Bucky was in a high-risk group for suicide. Suicide is highly suggestible during the difficult teen years. This is a time of life where one goes through the grueling process of identity and discovering self. He was estranged from his family over this Thanksgiving holiday. He was the victim of cyberbullying. Somewhere inside Bucky's mind, it made better sense to take his own life than to go on living. Bucky launched himself out a window and fell the equivalent of 7 stories to his death. I'm about to do something unusual for a funeral service. Then again, this isn't your usual funeral service where someone has lived a long life. I'd like to end this message with a charge. This charge is for myself and for each one of you here today. First, I charge you to lay judgment to rest. As humans, we need to assess and make judgments to make it in this world. Often, those who are considered most successful are really good at making split-second decisions based on good judgment. I'm not talking about this skill. I'm talking about being the judge of who is in and who is out. I'm talking about being the judge of who is good and who is bad. I mentioned that Bucky's mother kicked him out of her home. I mentioned that Bucky was a victim of cyberbullying. Bucky was wrestling with his sexual identity. His mother disagreed with Bucky's conclusion about his sexual identity, and she made a difficult decision out of love. Bucky was not a part of a church community, although he hung out with my son and other members of a local youth group. Some of these young people made a judgment about Bucky, and their Facebook comments resulted in a burst of cyberbullying. Do not judge Bucky's mother for her decision. You were not in her shoes. Do not take on this heavy responsibility of being a judge. I charge you to lay judgment to rest. Second, I charge you to take care. Take care of what you say. When someone's going through a difficult time, you may recognize some plan of action that they could follow, and it would help them to get better. Hold your tongue. When was the last time you appreciated someone trying to fix you? Take care to listen first, and then to respond with grace and empathy. Pay attention to one another's emotional climate. Take care of what you put into writing. Hurting people are not able to discern your loving intent from what you write or say. Everything goes through a critical filter. I charge you to take care to speak and write words that are full of love and tender mercy. And finally, I charge you to be the help that you desire. Each one here is hurting. Each one here is experiencing loss. Be the comfort to one another. Be the encouragement that the other needs. I charge you to pay attention and to be the help. Don't just observe someone hurting and walk away saying to yourself, man, that person is really messed up. They sure need some help. I charge you to enter into their mess and be the help that they need. We cannot bring Bucky back, but we can help others. In entering someone else's hurt, you will be making a difference. In doing so, you will find strengths that you did not know you possessed. Don't be the judge. Take care and be the help. I invite you to pray, should you desire, as I close in prayer. God, we miss Bucky. We invite you to help us to love and encourage each other during this difficult time. So many people out there are hurting. Each one of us in here is hurting. God, please help us to find the strength to care for one another. Give us eyes to see the hurt, the wounds, the sadness. Give us compassion. Give us mercy. Give us grace so that we may spread it around, so that we may heal others and be healed ourselves. Amen. I invite you to remain for the viewing of Bucky, and I invite you to say your goodbyes.